So in this video, I wanted to take a quick look at this pen, which is the Sailor 1911 Promenade. And the Promenade is a part of the 1911 series from best I can tell. It's basically a Japanese version of the 1911S, which is the 1911 standard. They're slightly different pens, and the differences are really hard to suss out based on what I found on the internet. But I can tell you it's a slightly different cap, and some of the coloring is different. You can't really tell with the black. I believe that's the same, but some of the Promenades have a sparkly resin. Anyway, it's a great pen. In my mind, it's a true 1911, and you can get it for well under $100 right now, which is a phenomenal deal. So just wanted to run through it. So standard torpedo or cigar shape, whatever you want to call it, gold colored hardware and a lot of it. So a nice band here, really beautiful cap band. It says Sailor, Japan, founded 1911. That's where the name comes from. And that's a pretty standard cap band, 2-part multi-level, which is very nice. Here's that clip. I think the Promenade has the best looking clip of any of Sailor's pens. You can see it's sort of a almost a knurling here, but it's very smooth. And then that anchor logo, which is very classy. Some more hardware, it's part of this. And then both the top and bottom are smooth. If you want it in flat, then you're looking for the Pro Gear. If you want this pen's only sold as a cartridge converter. If you want a piston filler, you have to buy the Rialo. You could check out the Sailor buying guide on unsharpened.com for more details like that. Twist to take it out. We could see this is the Sailor 585, so it's a 14 karat nib. I bought this pen in the broad, which is more like a European medium. I think it writes pretty nicely. So good looking gold nib, 14K, some more metal there. A little bit of a step here, but not enough to bother me. Small-ish section. It's definitely on the smaller side in my mind. This is not a huge pen. It's the equivalent, again, of the 1911 standard, so the 1911S. Nice resin on the body. Has that sort of high-end plastic feeling. No seam or interruption. It's quite nice. And again, nice taper here. It posts nicely if you're looking for a full-size experience. So that's definitely an advantage of the pen. Fit and finish is all quite nice. This is in line with a Pilot Custom 74 or a Platinum 3776. They're all sort of very similar pens. And I'll do a deeper video on them just because I think it's worth exploring, which I think if you're in the market for one, you're probably considering the other two. In my mind, you probably should be, and you can see that. Definitely some size differences between them. This is the Sailor, the Platinum, and the Pilot. So some clear size differences, although those change once you take the cap off, color differences, and the main thing really is don't focus on the body. You want to focus on how they write, which is difficult to do on a video, but I'll do my best to describe. So back to the Sailor. Like I said, really nice fit and finish. These are nice pens, and the retail for this thing would be in the $180 range, I want to say. So getting it for under $100 on Amazon means you're dodging your warranty, but it tends to be a very good experience. And there's other places you could buy if you don't like Amazon. Nice cap, has a little bit of weight to it. Again, super classy. I think that's one of the big advantages to the Sailor. Probably in my mind, the best looking of the three, at least like the most put together. Opening the pen up, you can see a lot of threading, which is nice, keeps it very secure. It's a little, I think that's a little seal there just to prevent any leakage. Nice piece of metal hardware. Again, that section is tiny. This is a 1/2 inch marker right here. So it's, an inch, not even an inch and a quarter, inch and a something. 1/2 inch and then a bit, right? So quite small section. I used this pen initially with the included cartridges, and then I liked it enough that I just figured I'd buy the converter. and it's a nice Sailor converter, sells in silver, or I believe it's a gold. It's just a twist style mechanism. And I'm using, I believe it's a Krishna's Sailor ink. So nice match with the Sailor and Sailor. And the fact that this is silver doesn't really matter to me because, again, you cannot see through. So really no big deal there. Okay, so that is the pen. Let's just do a comparison with the caps off. A little bit of a spoiler for the upcoming video, but I know it's interesting. I'm gonna line up the back edges. The point here is that the Sailor is the smallest of the three pens by a pretty wide margin if you're looking at the Custom 74 there. And you know, these pens will only vary a millimeter by a few millimeters, but if you look at a standard versus a large, again, they're usually only varying by a few millimeters. So the fact that you can get a Custom 74 and get a larger pen might make a big difference if you have a slightly larger hand or just prefer a little bit more to hold on to. So as for the writing goes, it's a beautiful nib. Again, really nicely worked. No hard starts. It's just extremely well composed. It's a very reasonable pen, very reliable pen. And it writes quite nicely. So this is the Sailor 1911 Promenade. I bought it in the broad. Definitely on the wet side. It's going to appear wetter because this notebook, this is the Hobonichi Techo, which I reviewed previously, and it has a fair bit of ink resistance, so colors will come through nicely on this, but it will look wetter. So very limited on the line variation. Even for a 14K nib, there's not much, but it's a nice writer. Again, always starts the way it should, which is nice even if you let it sit for a couple weeks. It's a little dry upside down, but again, that's not really the intended purpose. And on the, maybe not on the wet side for a broad, but it's like a wet European medium. Not out of hand, but definitely a nice writer and good for lefties who are looking for some glide action. It never feels scratchy or out of tune or anything like that. Again, so this is the broad, so you're looking for a kind of a thicker, wetter line. Limited line variation, but still fun to write with. And now I want to talk a little bit about Sailor and why you would buy a Sailor. Basically, if you want the smoothest possible nib, Pilot is what you're looking for. Those are the buttery smooth, hot knife on butter, whatever people want to call it. The Sailor's going to offer more feedback and more feeling, and you could kind of hear that. It is not silent as it's writing. If you go to Pilot, sorry about that. Quiet writing, very smooth. Sailor, a little bit louder, not scratchy, but you really feel the paper more. And that's just the way they polish that little ball there at the end of the nib. It's designed to give you more feedback than a Pilot. Generally speaking, you're going to get the most with a Platinum. But again, we'll talk about that more in the video. Sailor is a very reasonable amount of feedback. Smooth, but not buttery smooth. I really like this feeling. I do not like it as much as I like the Platinum, but that is my preference. One isn't better than the other. I think Sailor does a nice job here. I like the broad a lot. You pick the right ink with this and you're getting nice lines, very well composed behavior. As a lefty, I have no problem with an upstroke, really. You see, it's not ideal, but that's more on me and the way I'm pushing, just not an ideal stroke for me. But nice pen, nice writer, good feedback. And if you shop around, you could find some really great deals on this pen. So I would definitely recommend keeping an eye out and checking prices before you make the plunge. You definitely do not need it with the converter. I think it's nice to have, and you get some extra capacity, and it gives the pen a higher end feel. I definitely don't think there's a reason to buy the Realo. Those are expensive and hard to find, and you're looking at, spending upwards of maybe $300 on that. So not for me. They are nice because the Realos will bump you up to the 18K nib, but the writing experience on that is generally not worth the change from the 14K. So great pen, highly recommended. I think the Pro Gears are better looking, but this is a sweet looking pen. And then check back for the full review, I guess the full comparison of these three. Thanks for watching.